Every beer we serve at Miller's Ale House has a story, and we're pouring it out. Welcome to Draft Stories, where we sit down with the founders and brewers behind your favorite pints. Meet Maddie, the innovative brewer at New Belgium, the brewery behind beers like Voodoo Ranger and the legendary Fat Tire. Join us at Miller's Ale House as we listen to his draft stories. Maddie, good to see you.
Good
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. So New Belgium has become one of the most iconic names in American craft beer, but it all started in the early 90s with a bike trip through Belgium that your founder Jeff was on, and a dream to bring those bold, flavorful European styles to the US. You weren't there for the first ride, but you've been around long enough to see the brewery grow through almost every chapter. What can you tell us about those early days at New Belgium, and how did your own journey with the brewery begin?
You know, I got into homebrewing when I was 19. I'd actually gone and hiked the Colorado Trail. It was about 500 miles, took about 6 weeks. I ran into the old cellar manager of New Belgium at a beer festival, and I knew that that was the one to watch in Colorado. Fat Tire just kept growing and kept hearing more and more about it.
Why do you think Fat Tire took off like it did?
Timing, investment, and just like bold strategy and a lot of luck. You know, the branding was different than everybody else. It was a bike that people ride.
Back in 2017, I believe you guys launched another product, Voodoo Ranger, which has really taken off. And so how did that product come to be? And I'm sure it's taken over a lot of your time recently.
We just started to see the market kind of shift a little bit because we were kind of the first people doing Belgian style beer. Just by 2009 or so, we're like, we need to make an IPA to stay relevant in the market. IPA is not a Belgian style, so that was kind of breaking with tradition for us.
I'm sure that there's different food pairings that maybe come to your mind when you're ordering something. If you're gonna order a Fat Tire, what's maybe a food that you would probably order with that?
I mean, Fat Tire actually goes exceptionally well with cheeses. So like,
and I know Miller's has the Fat Tire
and the Fat Tire beer cheese,
yeah.
So it goes really well with that, obviously.
I think we should definitely try some.
Yeah.
Like, that we could get some out. Can we get some of that out here? All right, so Fat Tire beer cheese.
Yeah.
This is great. Why are these so good together, and how did this come to be?
Fat Tire and a lot of cheeses actually go remarkably well together. Its whole thing is all about balance. You know, it's not too sweet, it's not too bitter, it's not malty, it's not hoppy. It's all of those things in perfect balance.
What about the Voodoo Ranger? What goes great with that?
You know, I was looking at the menu before this, and the thing that caught my eye is that pork ossobuco. Like a piece of pork like that is gonna be kind of fatty, and something like Ranger IPA that has some bitterness to it, it almost like you can have a little bit of fattiness, and then that bitterness kind of wipes that right off your tongue. And so I like having an IPA that has some bitterness with it.
All right, this next segment's called Last Call. We're gonna ask you a lightning round of questions.
Okay.
Really quick answers, really quick questions. Yeah, get warmed up, get ready. Tell me the first beer you ever brewed.
Actually, the first beer I ever brewed was an IPA, strangely enough.
Was it any good?
Well, let me tell you this. I gave a bottle to my sister, and she said, oh, I really love the apricot beer you made. It was not supposed to be apricot.
If you had to drink one beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's such a difficult question for somebody like me. I would have to say probably either like Augustiner Helles or Schneider Weiss.
If you were to complete the sentence, brewing is blank, what would you say?
Brewing is human civilization.
Please go deeper.
Well, there's some cultural anthropologists that would argue that the first settlement, like the Mesopotamian city of Ur, came around because there were people who understood how to cultivate grain, and there were people who understood how to turn that grain, break the starches down into sugars, and turn that into alcohol. And then that just drew more and more people as they saw what was going on there, and that became, you know, the first real human settlement place that we're aware of.
If you were to have a toast or a beer with one person, is there one person that you would want to have that beer with?
You know, the first person that really comes to mind is Louis Pasteur. He kind of is the father of microbiology, and he was the one that discovered the true secret to the process of alcoholic fermentation. He understood that there were little tiny fungi that could turn sugar into alcohol, and he was the first person to postulate that, and the first person to make a pure culture yeast strain. And I'd like to have a beer with him to say, look what you done. Like, this is great.
Maddie, thank you so much for doing this. I've learned so much every time I sit down with people like you. This was incredible. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, absolutely.